International Association of Students in Economic Science. Okay. And I'm Mr. Vishal Raj. I messed up because he came and sat on my right, and I was like writing something, and I have to be grateful to him for calling me here. And I just completely forgot. And when you came here on the podium, the lights were right, and then I forget here. So anyway, so I'd like to say a few things. They want me to talk about culture. But I don't know, the definition of culture is except for biryani and certain manners of Hyderabadi people. I wouldn't be able to say much. And we are lots of people are traditional, but now it's all mixed because there's all this influx of people coming from different countries out here because we have this high-tech city now. And I think about 60% of the people living there are probably from some other part of India. So when you talk about culture, maybe anyway, that's also India, so it's still culture, but they wanted me to talk about Hyderabad. So Hyderabad, I'd like to start somewhere in the middle, and we are right there now because we are at Golconda Fort. And this was one of the, Tanamati was one of the ladies who was a singer and, who was part of the court of the Qutub Shahis. And we are right there now, maybe 2 kilometers from the Golconda Fort, which existed before the Hyderabad city was formed. So they were there for about couple of hundred years before they decided to create the Charminar, which is like a foundation stone for the Hyderabad city. And they were called Qutub Shahi kings. They were Persians, they were Shias, they were from Persia. So I'll start from there because then I can go a little forward to the Nizams who came later, which is my family, and I'm the present one now elected. So I'll go back to the history of the Nizams, and then I'll go back to a little bit of history of the Qutub Shahis also, because they are the founders of Hyderabad after all. So I told you they probably, because they're Shias and they're Persian, they most likely belong to the, to the bloodline of the Prophet, and the bloodline of the Prophet flows through his daughter. And they have a Bibi ka alam. Alam is a procession taken out on an elephant. And it was created by Hayat Bakshi Begum, who was one of the queens out here in Golconda. And now the Nizams picked it up. The last Nizam, his mother was Shia. So he made a place for worship or prayer, which is called Azakhana Zaira, and they brought that alam. Alam is that procession thing with certain relics of Islam. They brought it here, so I'm talking a little bit of... the Nizam was, later appointed as a governor from 1724. And so after that, the Nizam also appointed his daughter's son, Muzaffar. His daughter was Khairunisa. He appointed his daughter's son, Muzaffar, as the next successor to him. But in the middle, one second son of his also took the seat, and he had to be overthrown. But the fact is that they gave a lot of credence to, a lot of privileges and importance to women. And he didn't, he didn't make his daughter the next king, but because you need to be a sword fighter and all that. But the next biggest privilege is having that daughter's son to be the next king, because the daughter marries somebody else from an outside family. So accepting her son is like accepting somebody else's family to take over from you. So that's enough about the history. The rest of it is culture. All these traditions came down like biryani and all that. Hyderabad is so famous for that. And I think it's a little cliched because there are so many other things which are fantastic out here. People don't even experience them because they go straight into like some restaurant and probably ask for biryani as if it's one of the things they have to do before they go back. So, but there are lots of other things like the keema, khichdi, very, very simple things like nahari. Nahari once upon a time was meant for, nahar means like on an empty stomach, also early morning. Early morning also means nahar. So nahari was for the laborers. I've been celebrating Holi, and I'm a Muslim. Been celebrating Holi for the last 50 years at my expense. Before that, my parents used to do it for me as a child. And so it's right up my line to get people together. A few days back, there were people from BRICS out here. BRICS is Brazil, Russia, China, India, and South Africa. They were here. And I was interacting with the cultural team. They were here for 4 days. And I hope to introduce these people here from AIESE to them. And they're doing a good job getting people together, getting communities so people learn about each other. It's a very interesting kind of a thing. But they actually, it is interesting, but they're doing something about it. They have a student exchange program so people get to meet each other and all that. They're doing something about it. So talking about culture, we are standing here. This is a Golconda Fort and part of that. Basically, this Golconda Fort, the people here who made Hyderabad,
They used to live here. Then they shifted to Hyderabad, making like a foundation. The Charminar is the foundation of Hyderabad. They were like Persians, and they were Shias. After that, my family. I'm from the Asif Jahi family. And the president voted Nizam because in Islam there's only voting. There's no father to son, and there's no real Nizam now anymore. So we were like came from Uzbekistan mostly, and we were descendants from the Prophet's first successor. And these guys here who are Shias, they are probably descended from the Prophet himself. And down, the line down his daughter. So my thing is like we are, voted after the Prophet passed away, the first person who came into power to succeed him was through a vote or through consensus called Ijma, which that's a rule in Islam. There's no other rule laid down. I mean, if somebody uses force, like the Mughals came and used force and threw out these Golconda people who were Qutub Shahis. But force nobody can stop. But the only rule which is written down and laid down by the Muslims is Ijma, which is consensus. So they were pretty forward looking even then. They had a lot of democracy then. And they were meritocracy because they chose the best person. They didn't go by father to son. Because the first three successors of the Prophet itself were through choice.
So it was
Choice
an
of the
aristocracy, right?
The whole thing is, it wasn't an aristocracy. You're correct. Yeah, I'm Raunaq Khan. I'm the chief guest here at AIESE, which is a kind of a student exchange program for intercultural exchange. They were explaining that once upon a time there was a war in France and they felt like people are brutal towards each other. So they felt like making people of different nations interact with each other will give them a human face to the people from different countries. And, they'll get softer towards each other and see them more as humans, as fellow humans rather than opponents or like some totally different kind of breed. So they called me as a chief guest because I've been playing this Holi for the last 50 years. And I get together a lot of people, especially expats. They are from every different nation. Here itself, there are about 50 nations who are members of this. I think there are about 24 nations represented today. So I'm very thrilled being here at Taramati. And I've spoken a lot, but they made a note of what I said, so I didn't want to speak too much. And they made a note, and finally they forgot to read the note out. So I said whatever I could, but it didn't relate much. It related more to history of Hyderabad and the Qutub Shahis and the Nizam. Asif Jahis being, coming from where they come from, Samarkand. They come from Spain, and they traveled through Turkey. Then they came to India. They didn't come to India actually. They got married into India. But the Nizams are actually descendants of the there's too much noise. Descendants of the first Khalifa of Islam, Abu Bakr Siddiqui Rahmatullah alayh. So anyway, the Nizams are descendants, so they came down from that route. Wanted to tell them that they came through so many different cultures, and all those cultures were accumulated in them when they came here. The Qutub Shahis built the Charminar, and they were Persian, and then the Nizams were Asif Jahis, and they came from Uzbekistan. And I'm a descendant of that, and they believed in Ijma, which is a consensus kind of a based, inheritance rather than a father to son kind of a thing, which is written nowhere. But by power, a father wants a son to be. They can, probably do that, or by force, like the Mughals came and conquered the Golconda fort, and they conquered the Persian kings here who were Qutub Shahis, but that was by force. So there's nothing written about not using force in Islamic religion, but one thing which is they are clear about, which should be used wherever possible, is Ijma, is a type of consensus through which I was nominated as a Nizam for Hyderabad now for the family. So obviously I don't apply, the Nizam doesn't apply to the rest of the people here because they don't have power. They lost power in 1948 and 71. They became very, very common citizens, so there were no special privileges, including titles. So the family has adopted me as the 9th Nizam of the Asaf Jahi Dynasty, which is a interfamiliar family kind of a thing, and nothing to do with the government or the people around. I think I better end now because they're planning to start the music, so that's going to be difficult for me to even think straight. So I'll end with that, and I wanted to say the reason they chose me as a chief guest is I've been inviting people for Holi. I'm a Muslim, and my great grandfather was one of the most secular kings. His name was Mehboob Ali Khan. In fact, they have small shrines made in Maharashtra, because Hyderabad extended into Maharashtra and Karnataka. It was 90,000 square miles. So there were some temples and shrines made where people, even Hindu people, supplicate to them. It's been recorded by an engineer called Cyril Jones and also by Sarojini Naidu, no less, and Mr. Vishweshwaraya, who was a person who controlled the rivers after the 1908 floods, and he was appointed by my great-grandfather Mahbub Ali Khan, and he made this Usman Sagar and Himayat Sagar, which is now the city's water supply, as well as, it controls the flood waters from suddenly, submerging the city. So I think that is enough for history now. And before the band, they've taken a bit of a break, so I think I can talk a bit more now. And so I'll repeat with that. So few days back, the people from BRICS had come here. I spent 4 days with them. They're a cultural group. The cultural group representing BRICS policies in India. Actually, they float around. They were Russian mostly, and one of the person is based in Bombay, and the remaining were Russians, and they follow the policies and the ideology of BRICS, what BRICS wants to do, but their department is more to do with culture and publicity. So they were with me. They want to include me in some way because of my background, like I already told you about this Holi, and I've been now. Last 12 years I've been celebrating Sankranti, but last 2 years I've even got pandits and all that to do pujas at my place to teach the people how it's actually done in our culture, not just flying kites, because Sankranti people just know it's about enjoying themselves and flying kites, nothing more than that. So now I'm trying to introduce them to the past, and I'm trying to keep them out of alcohol, telling them they can have fun, dancing and all that without even drinking. But before 4 years or 6 years, I used to only invite expats. Because, even people just, because a festival you can't control, people just dropping by. So if I only invited expat, there would have been a limit to how many people can gate crash also. So they never exceeded about 120, and they were all different nationalities. So the newspapers used to love covering that event because, there are different type of people around and all that. So today I'm seeing something similar. This place is being represented by about 50 countries, and out of which 20 countries are already here. You can see in some of the, anyway, I've taken those pictures while I lit the lamp. So the lamp lighting is crazy because you can't take your own picture. You have to wait for somebody to post it. And maybe the channel I'm talking now on might be kind enough to send me my pictures. So I took the initiative. Day before also I took the initiative of classical music in Rabindra Bharati, which is an iconic central theatre auditorium for Hyderabad. So I was lucky to initiate the lamp lighting there also for the cultural thing. And so I do a lot of this stuff. That's my life. I'm a bachelor. And I like to, my main goal in life is mainly for communal amity. And the idea is, get people of different cultures together and make peace, make them happy. I actually have got a doctorate in that, but I don't want to bring that in because then it looks like you're serious. You're trying to, preach or do a job or something. So I like to put people together, like, in a situation like Holi, make them play. So they all realize they're all friends and, they get warm towards each other, make friends, come out laughing, giggling, and there's no more animosity. That's my whole goal. And I hate the idea that people can turn against each other just because some people are using some kind of a mechanism they become expert at to get people riled up against the opponent side, which has done nothing. So it's like a, landslide kind of effect. You hit one guy and, kind of tell him that the other guy hit him. And then that man attacks the other guy. And the other guy, gets becomes an enemy. Then he gets his 3-4 other friends, and it snowballs into something big. It's pretty obvious what's happening, but it's far deeper than that. It's a very orchestrated kind of a thing for a greater benefit, like votes and all that, to polarize votes and take advantage of a majority. So I think they've started the music now. I'll end with that. My name is Raunaq Khan. I'm the nominated 9th Nizam of the Asif Jahi Dynasty, and in a democratic fashion, in a democratic India. Thank you. I'm at AIESE. It's actually full of French words, but pretty similar sounding in English because the words for the French words are pretty same in English. And apparently this was created to have, different countries come together so they get to understand each other better, interact, so they know each other even if they've been at war earlier. They interact and realize they're fellow human beings and not entirely some alien race or something they can be very, very brutal towards. So the idea is to create that feeling of brotherhood between different nations, and by having people interact with each other like a student exchange program. So right now there are about 20 different nations being represented here. And totally, I think there are about 50 nations who are partners with this organization. And they're doing this thing. So it's also a student exchange program. Some of the people who have come here from those 20 countries will be working here for about some time just to absorb the other cultures. They do it as a voluntary thing, and they also try to do, like voluntary work for organizations. We need that kind of thing for helping out the poor or the, destitute or whatever. And it's I've been invited here by a person called Mr. Hari, who's the boss of this event. And I'm quite delighted to be here. This is at Taramati, which is a part of the Golconda Fort. And since this is all culture, I'd like to say that the Golconda people were Qutub Shahis, they were Persians, and they created Hyderabad. They existed in the Golconda from 300 years before the Nizam. Nizams were here for about 325 years. And 300 years is the last Nizam, he never moved from 1724. So that's counted as the Nizam period, but he was here maybe a little while before, and his grandfather and father came and conquered this fort. And representing Aurangzeb, they were his generals. The Nizam was their grandson, or was the general's grandson, who became a Subedar, a viceroy for the Mughals. Later on, his family down the line became independent, and they became, independent rulers, especially after 1857-58, after Bahadur Shah got exiled. Automatically they didn't have a head, so they became independent. But before that, they worked for the Mughals. That is the Nizam side. So it will be very confusing, because as it is, one side is confusing. Now I'm trying to add Qutub Shahis to it. I'm trying to say Qutub Shahis because we are in their area now. You can see the building around and all that. That's one of the, the campus of the fort, just outside the fort. And this used to belong to some, apparently belong to artisans who used to perform here and entertain the, the Qutub Shahis, from what I heard, if I'm getting it right. And the fort is, you can't see it. I wish you could see the fort, is right behind me. And so that's ancient. And then after that, the Nizams took over. And the Nizams were from the Prophet's successor, who was a father-in-law of the Prophet. His name was Abu Bakr Siddiqui Rahmatullah Alayhi. Rahmatullah Alayhi is a sign of respect. And he was nominated by Ijma. Ijma is a type of consensus. So we also want to show about culture that democracy existed there. It's a different form of democracy which is called Ijma, which is a consensus. Consensus meaning it's not an individual vote, but people from different communities get together and their heads decide on who should be the next head. And that is the only principle laid down by Islam. All other principles, they cannot stop, like somebody is more powerful than the other, he takes over. Like the Mughals came and took over the Golconda. They couldn't do anything because that was brute power. And Aurangzeb, who took over, he was more powerful than his own father, so he jailed his father and he murdered his brothers. So you cannot stop that. So there's nothing written against or for in terms of taking over, civilizations, because I think for kings, certain laws which apply to you and me don't apply to them, especially in that time. Because now, I'm also from that family, but now it's like, I'm living in a democracy which is India. I've been democratically elected also, and that tradition was there from the very beginning, from the time of the first succession ever in Islam by Abu Bakr, and then Hazrat Usman after him, then Hazrat Umar after him. They were all by, Ijma, which is some kind of consensus. And then after that, Hazrat Ali, he was also by consensus. And then his son was a direct descendant of the Prophet, Imam Hussein, who all the Shias revere. And Imam Hussein is a bloodline of the Prophet. There's the only bloodline through his daughter, Fatima. And Fatima is also called Bibi, so we have something called a Bibi Ka Alam, which is a procession taken out. It was started by the Qutub Shahis, who were Shias. Shias, a certain sect of Islam. Then later on, the last Nizam, he became, started becoming Shia leaning, because his mother was Shia, and he created a religious place for her called Aza Khana Zahra. And then he adopted this Bibi Ka Alam, which is taken out on an elephant as a procession. So the last Nizam, Usman Ali Khan, in his last years, last 15-20 years, he became tilted towards the Shia type of culture, and he adopted that Bibi Ka Alam. This year, I became the head of the Alam, because Alam goes to 27 different places. It doesn't enter any house. And a particular house it enters, I was allowed to be there to receive the elephant inside that house. So it was the highest honor you can give anybody in that major procession of Muslims here. Apart from that also, I've been funnily I've been chief guest for Durga Puja, for Saraswati Puja, which are both Hindu. Then I was at a temple, which is a Sardar temple in Karnataka. Karnataka, Bidar. There's the second biggest place for Sardarjis. I was invited as a chief guest. Then I was invited thrice as a chief guest for the biggest procession of Sufi Muslims in Hyderabad. Procession taken out from a place next to Charminar, Makkah Masjid, up to Yusufian Dargah, which is in Nampally. It's like about 4 kilometers. I led the procession thrice as a chief guest, and then I was the chief guest for the largest celebration of Christians, which is on Christmas, and the largest celebration because it is created, it is organized by the nominated MLA for the Christians, the reserved seat for the MLAs. That was that time my friend Christina Lazarus, she allowed me to be the head. So I've been crazily involved in every different religion as a direct as a chief guest, not just ordinary as a spectator, which is unusual. So I really fit this scene. So I plan to do a lot of things with them. And I was with the people from BRIC. BRIC is, Brazil, Russia, India. C is for China, and A is for S is for South Africa. Now a few more nations joined. So there was a branch which came here for the last 7 days. They were here. And that is a cultural organization of BRICS. They go by what BRICS wants, they do it for them. So it's a wing of BRICS, and I'm planning to do a few things with them. And they are choosing me because I've been celebrating Holi. Being a Muslim, I've been celebrating Holi for 50 years at my own expense. And I used to call all the expats out here from different countries. And but I didn't call Indians at that time, because if all the Indians come with all the free food and all that, I wouldn't be able to control the crowd, and there wouldn't be anything left for my own guests. So if I called foreigners, I knew if I call 80 maximum, they'll land up with 120, not more than that. So the limit, that was going on from about 50 years. Before that, my parents used to do it for me. Since I was a child, 4-5 years old, we've been playing Holi. So last 50 years I'd done from my pocket. Now I do it as a duty, as a bridging communities. And last 12 years, because Holi is a very rough kind of a thing. People throw water, you get thrown, pushed, and color on your face doesn't come up. It's a very rough thing. So I started celebrating last 12 years. I've been celebrating a bit before, kite flying, called Sankranti. But last few years I've been doing it in a very serious way. This year itself. This year we did it with all the proper pujas and all that. All the cultural related thing, the religious related thing, because that's a religious thing. People just know it's about flying kites without knowing the background of it. So what I've done is I've found out that it is connected with the sun god. So in different areas of my state, they have different ways of appeasing the sun god. So I got all the priests who have their different methodology of praying to that god. And I had those 4 priests praying at my place, so people could watch how they do it. And I got cultural troops from those areas to come and perform here. And I invited about 400 people, and this 400, none of them are my friends. And so I just wanted another group which is called Jahi and Jai Bharat, which is again intercommunity kind of, intercommunal, amity kind of a group. And I hosted them. And this time I did not have any alcohol there. And Holi also I did not have alcohol, because there were about 2,000 people. We created a lot of fun things like, a lot of mud, nice clean mud with a lot of, water in it. So slush, you throw people inside. So I wanted youngsters to realize that you can have fun without alcohol also. So that's become my policy for the last 2-3 years. Though for the last 50 years, I used to have alcohol at my place. And people used to carry, sometimes, Holi is connected with a religious thing, like, though it's a cultural thing to have bhang. So a lot of people used to have bhang and come, you can't control it. Bhang's already inside, you can't see it on them. So I used to not discourage it, but I didn't really encourage it either. But that was free for all. This time we try to control any type of drug. We control any type of alcohol as much as possible. But if they drink in the cars and come and all that, it's impossible. Whatever. But anyway, I'm trying to now connect all these different groups, like this AIESE group, because they're intercultural to different countries, because that BRICS is also again about 10 nations now involved in it. And the group I'm involved in is a cultural group, cultural wing of BRICS, so I'll get them together. Then this Jai Ho and Jai Bharat are a majority Hindu group, which is trying to inculcate friendship between Muslim. Then they have a Muslim wing, which tries to make Muslims understand that they have to be like, how do you say, like a bit more secular, or how do you say, not cutthroat kind of a thing, and be mild and, use logic rather than just like abide by rules, which sometimes is wrong. They get it, there's no way of predicting, or how do you say, translating what's written out there. So sometimes they take it in a very, very rigid way. So, this group is trying to explain that there's no rigidity required. You should go by the need of the hour. And the need of the hour is brotherhood. So they preach that. So I invited those people. So now there are now at least 4 groups and I'm like a brand ambassador. I'm not connected with that group, but they treat me as a kind of a boss, as a top guy without being registered with them. And even with the Nizam's family also, and there's no real, like they treat me as a 9th Nizam of the Asaf Jahi Dynasty. Because, now there's no Nizam recognized by the government of India. I'm a family Nizam across all the Nizams, including the 7th Nizam at the end. And I look after them, and it's an internal thing, Nizam of the dynasty. It's a, democratic kind of a choice. And I'm looking after them, so I'm trying to get all these groups together. Not the last one, Nizam is, different from, intercultural thing. But I'm trying to involve them somehow in these kind of activities because they're not trained to do any particular work. And they need to also get into the, stream of India, mainstream of India, because they've been sheltered because they were 230 years, they were rulers. They have very little clue about making a livelihood for themselves. So I'm trying to involve them in certain things, and I hope I succeed. And all these groups coming together now, intercultural today, with the AIESE, with the students. If I get them all together under some umbrella, I can do a lot because I'm a bachelor. I don't have any other work. And we have the biggest space for movie making, which is at my place. And I've even created a hill out there to protect, the radiation from the rocks. So I've covered it with mud and I planted trees. So the huge area of about, 7 acres, and in one hill is 7 acres. Remaining is about 80 acres. I planted trees. And that's a very, very expensive land. I'm not very rich. If I sell that, I'll be rich, but I'm just keeping it because I don't need the money. And I'm trying to keep it as some kind of a green lung for the city. And I hope I succeed. So there are too many things. I mean, how much can I say in one go? So I'll let go at that. And also I told you my grandfather, I told you in Maharashtra they have shrines built in his name. Did I say already about, because I've been repeating this, by Sarojini Naidu. She thinks like the Hindus consider him a saint and they go and, ask favors at his grave or at his shrine. Like if your child wants to, study and he has to pass an exam, they go and, pray at the grave. Not the grave, at the shrine. Because grave is in Hyderabad. Even at the grave, they go and pray. So she feels that they have so much confidence in him that even after death, they feel they can help, he's going to help them. Mehboob Ali Khan, I'm talking about the 6th Nizam, he was the most secular. I'm a direct grandson and he was the only monarch. Because all his predecessors were actually governors of the Mughals. Only after the last Mughal was exiled, they became independent. So Mehboob Ali Khan was independent from the time he was born. He was born in a monarchy, and he became a king when he was 2 years, 7 months old, under Salajang, who was his caretaker. Then till the time he died, he was a monarch. His son, the last Nizam, he was a monarch in the beginning, but later 20 years of his life is an ordinary citizen. So he has that, his record is kind of spoilt because he never got to be a king end to end. Like they dethroned him, and so it's not such a big honorable thing to be dethroned. I mean, I'm not saying it's an insult, but it happened. But you expect to be a king and king on your own terms. Only Mehboob Ali Khan got that privilege. His child was never, like a monarch beyond a certain time. But the last 20 years, he was an ordinary citizen. So why I'm saying that is because Mehboob Ali Khan is my favorite. I'm all this holy and all that. I do it at his place. You must have heard about the 1908 floods in Musi. So he did a yagna. Yagna is a Hindu way of appeasing the gods because the majority of the people suffering were Hindus. And Vishweshwaraya was there as a witness. And he said the water subsided. But it must be a coincidence. But he did the yagna, which is dangerous. You have to get into the raging waters and do it. So he did that. And, the railway engineer, his name is Cyril Jones. He said there were, kind of small temples in his name. Not temples, like some structures, like I said, shrine, which represent him. And people go and ask for favors for, marriages to be happy and, go well and things like businesses to go well. Those things are still existing. And one of my friends, he's in Jetprol. His name is Aditya. He's the eldest son of the Maharaja there. So that Jetprol, he's seen those structures, which are 190 kilometers exactly. So I have to go and see it. Last time I planned was during COVID, so I couldn't do it. So that's going to be something very serious. It's not to show off about my grandfather. It's to show the kind of brotherhood different communities had during that time. So I want to continue with that, and that's my only aim, only serious aim. Remaining things take my fancy. Sometimes I enjoy something, sometimes I want to travel, sometimes I don't. Like Turkey offered me a free visa from the government. The first multiple visa offered to me. First single visa was Lakshmi on the inauguration. Lakshmi Manchu, she's an actress and a director. So we got those visas, and the Americans gave me a visa as some kind of an honor.
also because they said I'm some word they used. They gave me under the category, and that U.S. consulate was also in my building. That building is still one of the shareholders who not been compensated. That building is also the previous consulate. So anyway, so this will go on and on. So I think I'll end with that. Okay. Thank you very much.